I'm Roberto Baldwin, and this is Tomorrow Today's Sustainable Mobility Brief. The transportation world is evolving at a rate not seen in decades. The transition from fossil fuels to sustainable energy has brought with it some truly exciting opportunities, but also some confusion. I'll sift through the noise and share quick updates on the latest news, trends, and advancements that will impact our world for years to come. This week on the Tomorrow Today Briefs podcast, I'm chatting with InsideEVs Editor-in-Chief Patrick George. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to chat with the SAE, and I will do my best to sound really smart because I'm the furthest thing from an engineer. So this will be great, you know.
I will routinely have people ask me if I'm an engineer because I work for SAE, and I am not. I have 2 art degrees. I have a degree.
It's kind of like engineering. I mean, that makes you like basically qualified to design and sell automobiles. I think, you know, how hard can it be?
I spent a lot of time with T-squares in my garage, and I hate the fact that we still use imperial instead of metric. So I'm kind of like an engineer.
I mean, I'm not learning metric, but like other people should.
It's just multiples of 10. It's so easy.
Yeah, like after I'm dead.
We can go after. It's so easy. That's why I just don't buy American cars, because I don't want to work for 9, 16, 7, 8. What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, how many cubic inches are the batteries on these new EVs? I don't know. I should run that math.
Speaking of math, and not really, that's a horrible segue. Let's talk about EVs. You're running InsideEVs. You've been in charge for how long now?
A little over a year. I came on in October of 2023, and I will tell you that covering this stuff over the last year has been just one of the like busiest and most jam-packed and craziest years I've experienced in the almost 20 years I've worked in journalism. And what I tell people is when I started out, before I started covering cars, I was a young crime reporter in Austin, Texas for almost a decade. And frankly, like the pace of covering the EV beat reminds me of that a little bit sometimes. It is just nonstop all the time and not always good either. So it's been an interesting an eventful year, and now we're sort of figuring out what 25 and beyond is going to look like too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't think I think a lot of people sort of dismiss EVs for whatever reason, but the amount of evolution within the EV space is just so incredibly quick. We had hundreds, over 100 years to like work on the internal combustion engine. EVs, on the other hand, within like 5-10 years, you're going from 100 miles of range, maybe 50 kilowatts of charging to 400 or 500 miles of range, charging at up to 350 kilowatts. It's just crazy how quickly everything is changing.
Yeah, you and I are veterans at this, and you remember what it's like covering primarily gas cars. It's like, okay, the mid-cycle update, and then there's the new one that comes out every 5 years, probably has the same engine with a little bit of juice specs, and now it's quantum leaps every generation. And I see that from every car company. I mean, like I think a really good example of that is like Volkswagen Group. I mean, like they've had a lot of headaches with this stuff and continue to, but just every generation that they come out with, like Q6 e-tron or the new Taycans, I mean, just like a billion years better than it was before, which is it's fascinating to see that accelerate as fast as it does. We're not used to that in the car world, I think, It
is quite interesting. Like the difference between the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6, like Hyundai didn't have to do updates. They didn't have to really, they could have just stuck a new body on top of the Ioniq 5 and been fine. But just the acceleration mapping, like every little itty bitty, every new vehicle has iteration that you wouldn't have seen in a gas powered vehicle.
Yeah, and I mean, like I struggle to think of anything as impactful as like the industry-wide switch to the NACS plug and what that's going to do for owners and how it's going to enhance their experience. Like, I'm not sure there is a gas car equivalent of that. I mean, maybe when we added seatbelts to vehicles and airbags, I don't know, but it's like this stuff happens all the time. And it's part of why I got into it. Besides, like, just, really, really caring about this stuff from a climate perspective after years of being like a gas car, like, super fan. I mean, I ran Jalopnik for 5 years and worked there almost 10. I got kind of bored covering gas cars by the end of the last decade. It's like, okay, here's the new Nissan. It's got the same 4-cylinder engine it's had since, since Clinton was president. Now it's just like it's rapid fire all the time, and not all of these companies are guaranteed to survive what's coming. So it's an exciting place to be if you like being busy.
So let's talk about what you think what has happened in the last year. And this has been a last year of you've been running InsideEVs. You and your team over there have been doing really excellent work. But and it just feels like we've already said that the pace is just accelerating. But what do you see? What are some of the bigger things that happened in the past year?
Man, where do you start? I think for me it kind of begins with the big question we've been wondering lately is what in the hell were these car companies like actually projecting for their sales? Because even as a proponent of this stuff and someone who's excited by it and who's an EV owner myself, it's like this idea that they all got that just like people would stop buying gas cars and switch to these 1-to-1 and it would happen in 5 years and they could be done with it. Really rose tinted glasses, I guess. I don't know what McKinsey or Deloitte consultants sold them on that vision, but man, is it just not happening. And I'm sort of wondering where that came from. I think that's where, well, like one of the biggest stories in this sector was all the doom and gloom around it, frankly. And I think that's a combination of things you and I have talked about before. It's like, I'll take the gloves off in this podcast if you don't mind. It's like it's dealers that don't want to sell them. I think it's some automakers that see this as a big opportunity to win the future, and then others that are being really dragged kicking and screaming to doing it. It's the really slow rollout of charging. It's getting people to understand how these cars work, that like what it's like to plug in at home and to live that life and not have to go somewhere to, quote unquote, fuel your vehicle. It's a sea change after 100 years of gas car dominance and development that they all seem to thought they could do in under a decade. And like we're seeing now that that's not the way this is going to go. At the same time, I think one of the biggest stories of this year was like just how far ahead, China is. And like there's a lot of ways to look at that. I mean, on one hand, you could argue if you want cleaner air in America, cleaner cars, like just drop the tariffs and everything, let BYD sell tomorrow. And like, I think we would all agree that would probably decimate our industry and jobs and everything else, especially if they came in way cheaper than Chevy or Ford or Toyota can do. But also, I think one of the biggest stories we saw was just how much the companies who are really serious are getting ahead and figuring it out. And I think by the end of it, it's like, there are especially two standouts I see. Technically three, but I'll get to the third in a second. The first two is like it's General Motors and Hyundai. And like GM orchestrated this huge turnaround after all these quality problems and delays and software headaches that they had last year. Now they're doing really well. I mean, like they announced this year that they got to 300,000 since 2016 or whatever it is. They're probably going to hit 100K before the year's out if they haven't already. Hyundai's doing great too. I mean, those cars are really world class. They have the NACS plug now. They're making them in America. They're about to start making them in Georgia. So like, I think those two companies, if the election, I'm sorry, not the election, that's already been decided. if we talk about if Trump gets rid of the tax credits, like those companies could do really well in the future anyway with this stuff. And then there's Tesla, and like, we could do a whole podcast on what we think about Tesla, right? But it's like it's still the market leader. It's still doing well enough. The lineup is definitely getting old, but like it's holding the line. And we saw this week that it's probably going to come out with some new cars this year too. So just I also think like a big story from this year was just like this stuff is taking off more than people think. Like we're at 10% of the market now, and that might not go as fast as it was projected to, but like that's a really remarkable achievement. And like some of these companies are either profitable with them or they're approaching profitability. Like we are kind of figuring this stuff out better than better than these car companies and such get credit for in the wider news. And then we see that people don't go back to gas cars when they buy these things. Generally, that does not happen. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty ahead, and certainly a lot of criticism we could level their way. But like, there's also a lot of cool stuff happening to be very optimistic about too.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think one of the largest roadblocks to EV adoption is the concern about the charging infrastructure. If you own a home, if you own a place, you can just charge at home. That's a sort of a we had a Kona Electric that we charged at a DC fast charger maybe 5 times. In the 3 years we owned it, because we just charge it at home every day. But there's this sort of education. There's the education element of it. It feels like the automakers aren't quite doing a very good job at it. The government hasn't done a very good job at it. And it's really difficult for publications like yourself to do that, because education is the ROI is not great. I mean, maybe it has a lot.
The ROI is not great. And like, I feel like I'm screaming into the void with this stuff. I mean, it's just like, okay, I do think that there is. I'm mean, a conspiratorial, but I'm a career journalist. I know how the internet works. Like, I think that
Yeah.
there is an ecosystem of like EV fear, uncertainty, doubt that's driven by like clickbait. The fact that like
Oh yeah.
anti-EV stuff gets forwarded to your Facebook uncle and it goes viral. There's like financial outlets that like make their bread and butter on that stuff. I think that there probably are, and this is proven to be true, like campaigns funded by big oil that are trying to slow this stuff down. And you're right, like the automakers are really bad at education here. And I think this speaks to something I've been thinking about all year, Robbie, which is like I call it entrenchment. And like in America, especially, we're not a big public transit country. We
Mhm.
are like New York City, where I used to live, and that's a few other places. That's about it. Like we depend on the car companies to allow people to get around. Like they're used to people just showing up and buying the stuff they've always bought because they've always bought it. And now things are
Mhm.
changing, and like they don't know how to tell people why should you buy an electric car? Like what are the benefits here? If you go to any of their websites, like I feel like very few of them have a section like why go EV. And
Yeah.
maybe they don't want to bother. Maybe they just say, oh, it's up to the dealers. They don't want to make their gas cars look bad. But very few of them are out there saying, like, look, these are the fastest cars we make. They're the best driving cars we make. They have the most high tech features. You're never going to pay for gasoline again. You know, there's all these benefits to this stuff that they just like, okay, here's our EV. Like, why aren't you showing up? Like that's
Mhm.
the sense I get all the time. Or they're like, oh, well, let us let our dealer partners figure it out, and like they never do because they don't want to. So like I think that like this business is gonna have to break out of that entrenchment, or it's gonna get its lunch eaten by somebody, like
Mhm.
probably BYD or something at some point because
Mhm.
they've clearly figured that out.
Yeah, it feels like you were talking about GM and Hyundai, especially the Hyundai Motor Group. Like whenever I see another automaker sort of keep pulling back on their EV rollout because for whatever reason, Hyundai just swoops in. I feel like they're giving up market to the Hyundai Motor Group and now to GM. Like, GM had some production issues, but now, the cars are coming out, the Equinox, the Lyriq, the Silverado. I mean, they're pumping those EVs out like the Hyundai Motor Group. And when you're another automaker, you're losing market share. You're losing mind share to those people because I've had two Hyundai EVs because the first one was good. So I'm like, well, and I drive a lot of EVs, so I know which ones. But my second one, I got an Ionic 5. It's just, because and the next car, even if I stop doing this job, it'll probably end up being a Hyundai EV just because I know that they're doing something.
Yeah, like I have big ambitious plans personally to own, like a Taycan or a Lucid Air. They're
Mhm.
concepts of a plan. It's not an actual strategy to get there. But like I bought a Kia EV6 a few months back, and like my wife and I love ours. Like we constantly amaze our friends with like how fast it goes and how long it can go. And how great the charging is. And like everyone's like, oh,
Mhm.
you're waiting at a charging station for hours. And like one of my favorite things I get people in the car is like roll up to the 350 at a Walmart and be like, watch this. Like go inside, take a leak, and when you're back, we're ready to rock. And they're like, it charges that fast? It's like, yeah, it does. Like dad knows what he's talking about, turns out. So like, yeah, I've been really pleased with ours, and like they're doing better and better with this stuff. I think like Kia EV3, when that comes to America, like that's gonna be I think you're gonna see those everywhere because
Mhm.
they drive excellent, they look cool, the specs are awesome. They're gonna be priced like 35, 30 under, something like that. Like that's what people want right now. And I'd
Yeah.
say another reason I'm optimistic too is like I do believe one thing I've seen over and over again. If you give people a reason to and you help them do it, you make it easy enough for them, they will break up with gasoline.
Yeah.
Because like nobody likes paying for gas. Like even the most like diehard like supercar owner that still complains about it. Like nobody likes that. But I see this like the rise in hybrid sales is evidence of this too. Like people like, okay, I
Mhm.
don't know if I can do this EV thing right away, but like, oh, well, these Toyota hybrids, like that sounds great. Like give people a reason to break up with gas. They will do it. And I think that bodes well for electrification long term and chasing
Mhm.
efficiency and performance that way. It's like that's why I do see this as inevitable and not some return to gas cars like some people predict. Like I think that ship has pretty much permanently sailed at this point.
In California, new vehicle registration, 22% EVs. I mean, that is where California goes, the rest of the country typically follows. And, it's going to be a while, especially for areas where they don't have a robust charging infrastructure. But let's talk a little bit about that. We had the NEVI rollout, which I think a lot of people were very critical initially of, but you have to deal with the state, and then the people who are building these have to deal with the county, and then the permitting and electricians.
Yeah, yeah. no one playbook to like roll out DCFC like quickly and efficiency, like do these four things and like you're ready to rock.
Hmm.
It doesn't exist yet. And I think if it we may have gotten to that point under a different White House, but like that's not where like the country's going now.
Hmm.
So we're gonna see. And like to your point, man, it's like we talk about EV tax credits going away under Trump. What's that going to do to the sales? That's going to do the market. I think an even more impactful thing is if like the NEVI funding, the DC fast charging dries up. Like if charger growth really stalls, like that's really gonna hurt this transition and
Yeah.
put the US further behind China. So I hope somebody finds some way to get clever to sneak that in as much as they can before the government changes next month. So we'll see.
It's because if you take away the tax credits, you're not directly removing jobs from the market. But if you take away the manufacturing credits, if you take away the NEVI credits, you're actually removing jobs from the market. So I think it's going to be a much harder sell than the very easy, well, we're not going to give people money to buy a car. Like that seems like a much easier sell than we're not going to give money for people to have jobs to build these things and maintain these things for the next, for careers or for maintenance or for whatever they want to do. Like, especially when you're talking about a lot of red states have these, Georgia, I mean, they have these battery manufacturing facilities. They have these vehicle factories. That's a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of jobs. And the last thing you want to do as a governor is say, by the way, remember all those jobs we promised? Yeah, they're going away.
Yeah, I mean, like you bring up a great point. Like I've been working on a story for the Atlantic right now about where Hyundai's at the end of the year, and like the Meta plant in Georgia, just outside of Savannah, that's Georgia's biggest economic development project ever. If you rope in the two battery plants that are going to serve it, also in Georgia, that's 13 billion with a B dollars. It's like 10,000 jobs. And like that's our deep red state, but like its governor isn't stupid. Like you cannot
Yeah.
tell me that he and county officials and people in Congress aren't going to fight tooth and nail to save that. Like I think there will be other examples of that across the country. And again, I
Mhm.
obviously don't want to get partisan on your podcast, but it's like there is not a lot of will, especially early on, to go against the president. So people are going to have to figure out red state elected officials. I think you're going to have to figure out some clever way to convince him to let some of this stuff slide. And that's going to
Mhm.
be real interesting to watch, you know?
We talked about last year, or well, yeah, last year's vehicles, NEVI rollout, J3400 adoption, which it's going to be huge as it gets integrated in more cars. What excites you about 2025? We're in a new year. We got a new administration coming in, but we also have new cars coming. We have new technologies coming. We have, and of course, solid state's always 5 years away.
Always, yeah. It's been 5 years away from Toyota since I think the 80s.
Oh yeah, it's been 5 years away for forever.
Yeah, I actually am excited by the new stuff. I'm excited by the affordable stuff coming out. Like I think that the Chevy Bolt Redux is going to be a game changer. Like I said, I'm excited for EV3. Tesla has prevaricated tremendously on whether it was going to come out with a cheap new car or not. Now the
Mhm.
latest is they might. And say what you want about Elon or Tesla these days, but like that, I think people would absolutely buy that thing. Like
Mhm.
that's good for mass adoption. I think it's going to be interesting from a news perspective to see how many of these companies can stand on their own without tax credits. And it's also interesting to see the ones like Mercedes is a great example to me. Like they got kind of rolled on their first round of doing EVs. Like people didn't really warm up to the EQ cars. Visually, I sort of get why. But
Mhm.
like the stuff we're seeing with like the new CLA class, like that looks really world class, that thing.
Yeah.
Like the range is insane. The battery tech's insane. Flexible powertrain, so it's going to be hybrid also, but like they're kind of like, no, we're going back to the drawing board. We're going to hit back harder than ever. We've got like newer stuff coming out, not just next year, but in the coming years from Lucid, from Rivian. It's still going to be a really exciting segment. I think it's important to know that even like pro EV folks, we all knew that like the tax credits, the subsidization could not last forever. It wouldn't
Yeah.
always coast on just free money. So now maybe a little bit sooner than we expected, it's we're going to figure out what it looks like without some of that, and that's going to be fascinating.
Okay, last question, and this is one I've talked to a couple automotive journalists about ID buzz. Do you think that after the first 2 years of the sort of hype, once the hype train wears out, will people continue to buy it, or will it be another VW Beetle? I'm on the side that I think it'll continue to sell because of the utilitarian aspect of it. It's 200, it doesn't have a huge amount of range, but with my test about 245, 250 miles, but charges at 200 and you can put a lot of stuff in it. What do you think?
Man, this is I would be cowardly here and say like it's 50-50. I don't know yet. And I actually really like the way it looks. One of my editors gave it a tough review. I was like, I'm actually excited to try it at some point. I have not I drove it once in Germany earlier this year, where it's been on sale for several years now, and it still turned heads. In its home country, people like waved and smiled when they saw it, and I saw them all over the place. I saw the cargo vans all over. Like it is so charming that it could do really well. Like I think that price point will put people off, like unfortunately. But it's a neat car, and it's like I kind of wish it was like, man, Volkswagen's in sort of a weird place, right? Like they got in really early on this stuff. Like they have a US factory making an EV, I think before almost anyone did. Yeah. And now it's like ID7, that's MIA. The ID4 was under a stop sale order, might still be. I do check on that actually. And it's like, okay, now we have this very expensive bus coming out. Like, what's the plan, guys? Like, where does it go from here? Where's the momentum we see from like Hyundai or GM? I don't know, but like I think that thing is gonna turn heads. It'll be a good ambassador for electric vehicles. Probably the best one that sector's had in a while, because probably the Cybertruck isn't it.
No, when I had the Buzz for a week, I'm writing it up for Wired, and in that week, more than any other car I've ever had, and that includes gas cars, supercars, Mercedes, Aston Martins, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, like all these big things that you would expect people to come up to. More than any other vehicle I've ever had, even the Model 3 before it came out to the public, I had one. Even more than that, I had more people come up to me, or when I come out of the store or a restaurant or whatever, be standing by the ID Buzz, like taking pictures, wanting to talk to me. I had more conversations about that vehicle than any other vehicle I've ever had. And when I tell them the price point, and I explained it, it's a mid-level. They don't have an entry level. It's a mid-level trim is where they're starting at. A lot of people are like, oh, that's not that bad. And I'm like, I just assume people are making more money than me.
Yeah, well, we're journalists, so that's usually a safe assumption. No, it is, and it's like if you're listeners here, if you're industry folks, like that's the stuff you should be aiming for. Like swing for the fences, and it's joy, and it's different, and it's weird. It catches people's eye. I think we need to move away from like super expensive spaceship sedans for one, and also a genre of car I call electric crossover, but it's us, where it's just like, here's the car. It's like a Nissan Murano, like we've always made. Why aren't you people buying it? Like, it's what's interesting about this? What's sexy? What's special? What gets people excited? You see more stuff that gets people excited about this world, and then the sales will take care of themselves with or without tax credits, I think. Maybe.
Well, thank you so much, Patrick. I really appreciate you being on the show. And be sure to check out InsideEVs. They had some really great write-ups, reviews, features, just some outstanding work from that entire team over there.
Thanks so much, Roberto. Really appreciate it, man.
For more information about the evolution of sustainability, head on over to sustainablecareers.sae.org. There you can learn about the latest EV announcements from the Los Angeles Auto Show, including the unveiling of the Hyundai Ioniq 9. Be sure to subscribe and listen every week on your favorite podcast platform.
SAE International makes no representations as to the accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. The information and opinions are for general information only. SAE International does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast.